The Galactic Empire's victory parade was so pompous it could be seen from orbit. Thousands of alien delegates crowded the obsidian terraces of the Capitol spire, their scales, feathers, tendrils, and armored hides catching the twin suns' light in ceremonial glint. Drums the size of shuttlecraft pounded through the airless void and across 39 conquered worlds. The same message pulsed through every communication node. Earth has fallen. General Krolix of the Galactarian caste, 8 feet tall, jewel-armored, and twice decorated for planetary subjugation, stood before the gathered council with a grin made for press releases. The humans surrendered, he boomed, voice echoing through galactic channels. In 6 days. Not even one of their so-called holidays. A people of contradiction. Charming smiles, primitive metal toys, sentimental rituals. They fought like poets trying to punch. Laughter rattled from the council's jaws, beaks, and mandibles. Krolix adjusted the silk sash draped over his shoulder, an Earth trophy, stitched with the word Super Bowl. Our enemies weep. Our allies celebrate. And Earth's last military outpost, a moon they call Caliban 3, lies silent, crushed, as it should be. He turned and bowed theatrically toward the central transmission lens. To any remaining Terrans watching, thank you for the sport. The feed cut to the Empire's triumphant anthem, an orchestral roar of conquest, played loud enough to drown out the static from dying outposts still blinking into the void. But there was one signal that hadn't yet gone dark. A tiny resistance node, buried inside a mineral shaft beneath Caliban 3 surface, was still transmitting. Not screams, not pleas, just a message. Coordinates. A flare. A whisper flung into the abyss. Help us. Even one. The Empire's orbital sensors caught the distress ping, of course. Krolix laughed when he saw it on his command screen. One? They want just one. The fleet officers chuckled. It was cute. Desperate, maybe. Poetic, certainly. And entirely irrelevant. Which is why no one scrambled intercept ships when a lone pod broke from the edge of Empire space. No weapons. No broadcast. No escort. Just a black, rectangular craft, dull as a coffin. It touched down gently on Caliban 3, stirring gray dust around the cratered resistance base. Drones circled it curiously. One even tapped against its hull, as if to ask, "Are you lost, little box?" Then the door opened. He stepped out slowly, a silhouette against the rising blue haze. Black coat, black boots, unarmed as far as they could see. A lean human man in his 40s, maybe, trim beard. Hair slicked back like he'd just left a jazz club. He carried a silver thermos in one hand. No visible weapons. No armor. Just a small leather satchel at his hip and a look of quiet boredom. "Afternoon," he said to the Empire's ground guards. "Heard you boys needed help." The guards blinked. One of them, a tusked Dravillian, snorted. "Identify yourself." "Jordan Anderson," the man replied, sipping from his thermos. "Tea. Would you like some? Bit hot." The Dravillian raised his plasma rifle. Jordan didn't blink. "That's rude." 3 more guards moved in. One barked orders. Another circled left. Jordan sighed, stepping forward with all the menace of a man delivering mail. Then everything stopped. There was no flash, no bang, just silence. For Empire guards now lay on the ground, groaning or unconscious. One cradled a dislocated jaw. Another clutched his own weapon, somehow fused into the shape of a pretzel. Jordan stepped over them and reached the blast doors. The door scanner hissed. "Unauthorized. Please stand." He touched it once. The entire panel fell off. Inside, the remaining resistance survivors, 23 humans in tattered uniforms, stared in disbelief. One of them, a young corporal with burned scars across her cheek, stood up slowly. "Sir, reinforcement?" Jordan nodded. "You called for one." A whisper passed through the room. "Not a reinforcement. The reinforcement." Corporal Ray whispered. "That's not a man. That's—" She didn't finish. Nobody ever did. Meanwhile, back on the Empire's flagship, General Krolix was reading a report with visible irritation. His tentacled aide hovered nearby, trembling. You're telling me 4 trained soldiers were dismantled? No fatalities, General. He was precise. They described it as elegant. Elegant, Krolix muttered, standing. Was it ballet or was it blood? No blood, sir. Just broken pride. Krolix narrowed his 6 eyes. Get me visual. The screen flickered. A paused frame. Jordan Anderson walking into the Caliban facility, sipping his tea like he was entering a bookstore. Krolix tilted his head. Something about the stillness, the posture, the unapologetic casualness. He activated facial recognition. The result came back in red. Jordan Anderson, status, asset redacted. Former designation, Baba Yaga. Human tactical ghost. Kill count, unquantifiable. Last seen, classified. Advisory, do not engage. Krolix felt his veins ice. They sent him. The aide swallowed. I thought he was a myth. He was, Krolix said. So was the plague. Back on Caliban, Jordan sat on an overturned ammo crate. The humans around him were cautiously hopeful, like orphans watching a wolf-read bedtime stories. He was calm, polite, almost soft-spoken. You'll want to reroute your power lines, he said, gesturing with his thermos. They've tapped your grid 3 levels down. How do you know that? I listen, he said simply. Machines hum. Enemies breathe. Lies crackle. One soldier, Sergeant Henson, cleared his throat. Why you, sir? Not a ship, not a team. Jordan shrugged. Empire wanted a message. Earth sent a reply. Suddenly, alarms blared. Empire drones incoming. Dozens of them. Jordan stood, slow and smooth. He didn't reach for a weapon. He just unbuttoned his coat. Now then, he murmured, stepping outside. Let's say hello properly. The drones swarmed in formation, sleek, angular things with enough firepower to vaporize a tank column. Jordan didn't flinch. One drone fired. Jordan moved. There was no wasted motion, no flash of fear. In 3 heartbeats, 10 drones were down. Engines fried, wings twisted, circuits shorted. One detonated against its own wingmate. He caught another mid-flight and spun it like a discus into the ground. Inside the bunker, the resistance soldiers watched in awe. One whispered, he dances with death. No, Ray replied. He leads it. Elsewhere, Krolix watched the feed cut in and out. He's not killing for territory, Krolix said slowly. He's not conquering. He's sending a message. His aide hovered silently. What's he doing now? The screen returned. Jordan stood in the smoke, adjusting his cuffs, surrounded by broken machines and burning metal. He looked directly into a surveillance drone and raised his thermos in a mock toast. Krolix's throat went dry. That's when all 6 of the Empire's forward operating bases in the sector began going dark. Simultaneously. No fleets. No battles. Just silence. Systems fried. Communications looped with one simple message, scrawled across every wall in English and binary alike. You should have knocked. Krolix gripped the edge of his desk. What does he want? From shadows, a soft voice answered. One of his ancient advisors, the Sephiran Oracle. He doesn't want anything, General, the Oracle rasped. He's reminding you what humans are. And what are they? The Oracle didn't smile. It had no mouth, but its breath hissed with something close to awe. Kind, curious, polite, until they're not. Krolix turned back to the screen. Jordan Anderson was gone again, vanished into smoke. But his message remained, carved into the crater wall with a single knife stroke. Round 2. The war room aboard the Empire's command dreadnought wasn't made for silence. It was a place of noise. Strategy reports, orbital scans, loud debate among generals raised to shout over starfields. But ever since Jordan Anderson's arrival, it had fallen into a kind of hushed paralysis, like the galaxy had exhaled and forgotten how to breathe. General Krolix leaned forward over the projection table, watching a replay for the 12th time. No matter how many angles they spliced or slowed, no one could see how Jordan had moved. The data showed a man stepping into a courtyard surrounded by drones. Then, 14 seconds of static. When the feed returned, it was over, metal burning, air still, and Jordan adjusting his cuff like he'd just stepped out of church. Krolix slammed a fist against the controls. He was supposed to be dead. The Sephiran oracle, older than most moons and clad in bone-white robes, did not blink. It didn't have eyes. It merely said, "Dead men don't knock. He walks through walls." "Find me his files," Krolix barked. "All of them. I don't care what Earth erased. I want to know what kind of man drinks tea after committing battlefield ballet." They found fragments. Shredded military records, classified after-action logs with entire paragraphs, redacted in black ink thicker than a moon's shadow. One note remained untouched. It was old, scribbled, handwritten, probably by someone who thought handwriting still mattered. "Do not provoke. If seen, be polite. If engaged, surrender. If he smiles, run." Krolix exhaled. "So he's a boogeyman." The aide spoke hesitantly. "They called him Baba Yaga, General." "Isn't that their fairy tale?" "No, sir. That's their warning." 2 days later, Jordan appeared on Rillian 7, the site of the Empire's AI processing hub. A sterile city built entirely underground, designed to calculate conquest with nanosecond precision. No humans had ever set foot inside. And yet there he was. Cameras caught him entering through the employee entrance. Not storming in, badging in. Somehow, the door just opened. He stopped at the front desk. The receptionist, a sentient vapor cloud named Enthera, stared at him through a lattice of blinking crystals. "This facility is off-limits to non-imperial personnel." Jordan nodded pleasantly. "I'm not here to break rules. Just protocols." "And what credentials do you offer?" He slid a coin across the desk. It wasn't currency. It was a silver earth quarter, scratched, dulled by age, the eagle side facing up. Enthera blinked. "This is not valid under." Jordan smiled. "I didn't come for entry. I came for you." And then everything went dark. Every terminal, every light, every drone dropped at once. Silence fell like a curtain, and when it rose again, the AI core was gone. Not destroyed. Gone. When the Empire reviewed internal logs, the last words the system processed before going offline were not commands. They were music. Frank Sinatra. "That's life." Krolix stared at the playback, frozen. He dismantled the most complex intelligence cluster in the quadrant with jazz. "He's sending messages," the Oracle said. "He's making art." Jordan's next move was stranger still. He didn't strike a facility. He walked into a live television broadcast. The Empire's Cultural Reprogramming Network was mid-interview with a political puppet, Ambassador Yilrix, known for being the only ambassador who could smirk without a mouth. The segment was scripted. A discussion of Earth's surrender, of how dangerous humans had been, and how proud the Empire was to educate them into civility. Then Jordan walked onto the stage. No one stopped him. He carried a single flower. Dandelion. The camera drone, confused but obedient, focused in. "Excuse the interruption," Jordan said mildly, placing the flower on Yilrix's desk. "Just thought I'd return something." The ambassador sputtered. "What is the meaning of that?" Jordan said, nodding to the dandelion. "Was picked from Earth the day your fleet bombed our capital." He adjusted his collar. "You mistook kindness for surrender. Thought we wore suits because we were weak." Yilrix stood to protest, but Jordan leaned in, voice lower now. "We wear suits to bury people. Do you want to know who the next one's for?" Broadcast cut. 17 systems rioted the same night. But the question that paralyzed the Empire wasn't what Jordan would do next. It was why he was still alone. "Surely Earth has more," Krolix muttered. "Where are the fleets? The armies? They must have allies." The Oracle raised a claw. "Wrong thinking. He is not a soldier. He is a statement." Krolix turned away. "I don't believe in statements. I believe in strategy." The Oracle tilted its head, voice like silk drawn across bone. "And he believes in consequence." Meanwhile, across the shattered moons of Sector 9, stories began spreading. Of a man who left no trace. Of bases whispering their own deactivation codes before he arrived. Of entire battalions defecting not out of fear, but out of respect. The Varnu governor, A reptilian bureaucrat who'd ordered the bombing of 3 Terran cities received a simple letter. No signature. No seal. Just a line. You were at 32.731 degrees north, 117.159 degrees west. I remember. He vanished that night. No one saw what happened. Only the sound of a teacup clinking on ceramic was reported by his guards. That was the moment the Empire knew. They weren't fighting a man. They were fighting the idea of humanity, unchained. Back on Caliban 3, the Resistance survivors watched as new footage of Jordan played across hijack screens. Not battle, not speeches, just him, walking through the ruins of an old Earth embassy, brushing dust from a flag. You ever met him? Corporal Ray asked quietly. Sergeant Henson shook his head. No, but my grandfather did. Yeah. Henson nodded. He said Jordan wasn't born for war. He was born for reminders. Reminders of what? Henson's voice dropped. That humans don't lose. They wait. The Empire began evacuating strategic stations. Not because they were threatened, but because no one knew what Jordan wanted. He didn't take territory. He didn't declare demands. He didn't recruit. He simply arrived, noticed, and left behind silence. That uncertainty fractured morale more than any fleet could. Krolix ordered an elite squadron, the Core Talons, to hunt him. 3 days later, they returned. One was missing an arm. Another had tattooed, "Do not provoke," across his chest. The third just repeated, "He offered me tea." Krolix shouted at his war room, desperate now. Why won't he negotiate? What does he want? From the shadows, the Oracle finally answered. He wants you to understand. Understand what? That the war never ended. The dreadnought's proximity alert suddenly pulsed red. Unscheduled docking. One small pod. Krolix's heart stopped. The doors to the bridge hissed open. A soft sound echoed. Boots. Click. Click. Jordan Anderson stepped onto the bridge with calm, measured grace, like he was walking into a hotel lobby. No guards moved. No one breathed. He looked directly at Krolix, unblinking, coat gently swaying. "General," he said, "you wanted to speak?" Krolix's throat tightened. "What are you?" Jordan looked at the stars outside. Just a man, with a long memory. He stepped forward. "One more thing." Krolix backed away. Jordan stopped. He smiled. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't mocking. It was almost warm. Then he said quietly, "I don't knock twice." Aboard the Empire's dreadnought Torvak's grasp, every screen glowed with chaos. Sectors blinking red. Planetary governors falling silent. Resources rerouted. Orders unacknowledged. Fear, for the first time in a generation, had become quantifiable. It had a pattern now, an orbit. It followed him. General Krolix no longer addressed his command by standing above them. He now stood among them, one level down, closer to the whispers, closer to the terrified truth. "He's unraveling us," Krolix murmured, voice lower than ever. "Not just our chain of command. He's cutting into our ideology like it's cake." Beside him, the Sephiran Oracle adjusted its hood, unbothered by the fraying air of tension. Perhaps it is. Fluffy, decorated, sweet until it rots your teeth. Krolix shot a look at the creature. "We didn't lose to a man. We're losing to a gesture." The Oracle replied, "Correct. And you still misunderstand the nature of the mission he was sent to complete." Krolix stiffened. "We assumed reinforcement meant Earth was mounting resistance." "No," the Oracle said simply. "He wasn't sent to resist. He was sent to rewrite." 3 systems away, on a dying moon called Ketis 4, Jordan Anderson sat in a child's classroom. Dust caked every desk. Half the ceiling had collapsed. Rusted learning boards dangled on wires like forgotten corpses. Earth literature textbooks, burned at the edges, lay in a neat pile beside him. One, untouched, remained open to a page titled Allegory and Memory. He read in silence. Across from him sat an alien child, half Zeltran, half human, unregistered, probably abandoned. Jordan offered him a soft piece of Earth chocolate. The child stared, then took it. "You were born on the wrong day," Jordan said gently. But I'm working on that. The child didn't speak. But he stayed. Above the planet, an Imperial cruiser approached at full speed, targeting the surface with a standard cleansing protocol. Non-compliant territories were not worth debate. Inside the cruiser, Commander Alavic studied the data feed. Only one heat signature detected. Not a militia. Not an insurgent nest. Just a man in a long black coat. Is this a joke? Alavic said, tail twitching. Sir, one of the officers stammered, it's the human. The Baba Yaga. Alavic froze. He'd seen the footage. He remembered the broadcasts, the sudden disappearances. His uncle had been stationed on Vortha Prime. Had. Past tense. We're not authorized to engage, Alavic said. No, sir. But orbital cleanses. He's on the surface. Yes, sir. Then we're not firing. The officer hesitated. Protocol. Protocol doesn't apply to that man. Jordan looked up toward the ceiling as the cruiser's shadow passed overhead. Then he picked up a red marker and wrote a word on the chalkboard in English. Memory. The child tilted his head. Do you know what that means? Jordan asked. The child blinked once. Then, with quiet care, nodded. Jordan stood, brushing dust from his coat. That's all right then. That's enough for now. He turned and walked away. By the time the Empire's landing crew touched down, the classroom was empty. Only the chalkboard remained, and one red line of script beneath the word. Empires forget, but Earth remembers. Back on Torvak's grasp, Kralik slammed a report onto the war table. He's leaving breadcrumbs. Quotes. Symbols. Ghosts. The Oracle nodded. Exactly. He is not attacking us. He's infecting us. Turning your structure against itself. Kralik bared his fangs. How? He reintroduces human memory, empathy, chaos, all things the Empire spent centuries deleting. Kralik stared at the map. Systems no longer colored in red. Sectors turning neutral gray. Former allies of the Empire refusing to pick up calls. You're saying one man is undoing centuries. No, the Oracle said softly. I'm saying Earth waited centuries for the right man. Kralik's voice dropped. But why now? The Oracle smiled without lips. Because now it matters. The next incident came not with a broadcast, but a melody. Empire propaganda stations across 17 systems were hijacked simultaneously, not with a human voice, but a vinyl crackle. A single song began to play. Ain't That a Kick in the Head by Dean Martin. Across factories, barracks, and hallways, alien personnel froze. Some laughed. Some cried. Others simply stood still, unsure why their hearts felt heavier. Then came the message. You wanted reinforcements. But Earth doesn't send reinforcements. We send reminders. Kralik watched the screen dim. He's not fighting, he said. He's performing. The Oracle leaned closer. You still don't see. His mission wasn't military. Kralik stared. Then what? The Oracle gestured toward the screen, now flickering between systems gone dark. He was sent to end the conversation. Not win. Not negotiate. End it. In the quiet colony of Navantir, high in the tundra mountains of a dead moon, Jordan sat at a fire pit surrounded by 7 defectors, former Empire officers who had quietly abandoned their posts. They didn't speak at first. Not out of fear, but because it felt sacred. Finally, one of them, a feathered ambassador from the Altari caste, asked, Do you believe in what you're doing? Jordan stirred the fire with a stick. No, he said plainly. I believe in what they forgot, which is that we're not here to win. We're here to remind you what losing feels like. He looked up, eyes glinting with firelight. You can't humiliate a species like ours and walk away clean. Another asked, Why not bring an army? A real counteroffensive. Jordan shrugged. Armies fight wars. But I'm not fighting. I'm reminding. The wind howled outside. Something ancient, cold, and familiar. One of the defectors leaned in. How does it end? Jordan smiled faintly. That depends on how many of you are willing to remember. When the Empire deployed stealth assassins, bioengineered for silence, shadow, and maximum human resistance, they were proud of the plan. Multiple agents. Sync strikes. No alerts. They sent 12. None returned. Only one message came through the data stream before blackout. A single photograph. Jordan sipping tea beside a sign that read, "Appointment only. Please don't knock." Krolix could no longer sleep. Not from fear, he'd survived coups and sieges, but from confusion. They had every advantage. Every number. Every sensor. Every dreadnought. Yet Jordan moved like smoke, like song, like myth itself. "What does he want?" Krolix whispered. The oracle stared through the darkness. Not vengeance. Not victory. Not mercy. Then what? The oracle exhaled. "Your surrender." Then why doesn't he ask? The oracle turned toward him slowly. "Because asking implies he needs your permission." Krolix turned away. At the edge of Empire space, on a station long thought abandoned, Jordan stepped onto a steel platform overlooking a starfield. A simple stone bench waited behind him. He sat watching the stars as the voice of a resistance agent crackled through his comlink. "Sir, people are rallying. You've flipped 6 more sectors. The Empire's losing cohesion. Some want to move on the core systems. What are your orders?" Jordan closed his eyes. "Nothing." The agent paused. "Nothing. We're not done yet." "Sir, respectfully, what is the mission?" Jordan leaned forward. "To make them feel what they made us forget." "And what's that?" Jordan's voice was quiet. "Home. Loss. And who we are when we have nothing left but memory." In the distance, another fleet blinked off the star map. Another silence. Another echo of Earth's long memory. Then, just before he closed the link, Jordan added, "Tell your crew to rest. The next door won't knock." And the stars seemed to lean in, listening. There was no alert when Jordan Anderson entered the capital system of the Empire. No klaxons. No mobilization. He simply walked through their detection net like it was fog. Past dreadnoughts suspended in orbit like sleeping giants. Past billions of security signatures. Past the final firewall of what the Empire believed was control. He walked into the Empire's throne world as if he'd been there before. In truth, he had. The city of Ark's magnate was carved into a planetary canyon, 37 levels deep, towering spires of obsidian glass and neon veins, humming with surveillance and fear. Crowds bustled in silence, order enforced by presence alone. The Empire's capital was not loud. It had no need to be. It was dominance crystallized. And yet, as Jordan walked its avenues, no one stopped him. He moved with the stillness of inevitability. Black coat, shined shoes, hands clasped behind his back like a Sunday stroll. His face unreadable, a ghost with a heartbeat. In the control tower overlooking the city, General Krolix stood watching the surveillance feed. He hadn't slept in 3 days. His face was gaunt now, a different man than the one who had laughed at the idea of Earth's surrender weeks ago. "He's here," Krolix whispered, not as warning, but as fact. "He always was," murmured the Sephiran oracle beside him. Krolix gripped the railing. "He's one man." "No," said the oracle. "He's the bill long overdue." Below, Jordan passed a row of storm armor guards. None moved. Some stared. One turned and quietly walked away. The moment wasn't violent. It was final. He entered the archway of Dominion, the central administrative heart of the Empire. Marble floors, ceilings etched with ancient galactic victories. Murals of 100 species bowed before the Empire's seal. Jordan walked beneath them, untouched by history. At the end of a hall stood a pair of 10-foot gates. They opened before he touched them. Inside, the Imperial Council chamber glowed with gold and fear. 7 figures seated in a half-moon. All species, all castes, all trembling behind masks of protocol. At their center, Emperor Valkor. Flesh of steel. Crown of neural flame. Voice like gravity breaking. "You are trespassing," he said. Jordan didn't respond immediately. He let the silence fill the room, like water into lungs. "I remember when your kind visited Earth," he said softly. "You came in peace. You smiled. You took notes. Then you left. And 3 months later, You erased an entire hemisphere. Valcor didn't blink. Earth was unstable. It threatened interstellar cohesion. Jordan raised a brow. You mean it refused to kneel? Valcor stood slowly. His height was monstrous. His body augmented. But his voice faltered just slightly. What do you want? Jordan smiled without showing teeth. Not war. War is loud, petty, expensive. He stepped closer. I came to give you something far worse. The council members shifted. Valcor narrowed his eyes. Witches. Jordan's voice dropped, cold as space between stars. Memory. Without warning, the doors sealed shut behind him. Every light in the chamber dimmed, except the halo of daylight around Jordan's head. He unbuttoned his coat. From within, he drew not a weapon, but a drive. He placed it gently on the Emperor's table. This, he said, is everything your people deleted. Every song, every funeral, every letter home, every scream from our children while your orbitals fired. He looked up. Everything you thought would be forgotten. Valcor stepped back. You came for revenge. Jordan shook his head once. No, I came to bury you in the truth. The drive activated on its own. Around the council chamber, holograms bloomed like ghosts. Earth cities burning. Children digging for food. A soldier holding her friend's shattered hand. A grandmother singing over rubble. A pilot whispering goodbye before vanishing into fire. Valcor snarled. You think images will defeat us? No, Jordan said. He tapped the table. I think shame will. One of the council members stood, shaking. This is emotional warfare. Jordan nodded. Correct. And you've already lost. The guards tried to move. They didn't get far. The floor trembled. A hum beneath the palace, subtle growing. Krolix watched from a tower, wide-eyed. What is that? The oracle exhaled. He's not alone. Outside the city, the mountains split. From within, old Earth ships, hacked, forgotten relics, rose from dust and ash. Drones reprogrammed by Jordan's signal. Forgotten probes, satellites, vessels, all summoned not for war, but for memory. They projected light, sounds, testimonies. The voices of a buried people now speaking over every frequency in the capital. Across the Empire's channels, every propaganda stream dissolved into Earth's truth. Soldiers paused. Civilians wept. Children asked questions. Questions that couldn't be suppressed. The Empire didn't just lose the war. They lost the narrative. Back in the chamber, Valcor was trembling. This isn't combat. Jordan nodded. No. He stepped forward, voice quiet. It's consequence. The Emperor charged. Metal fists. Warborn speed. Armor that could crack stone. Jordan didn't move. He pivoted. With effortless grace, he sidestepped the charge and slid one foot beneath the Emperor's center of mass. Valcor toppled. Not from force. From precision. He landed hard, one knee-shattering stone. He tried to rise. Jordan was already behind him. One hand on his shoulder. One whisper in his ear. Earth sends regards. He tapped the Emperor's spine with a silver coin. The neural crown dimmed. The chamber fell silent. Jordan stepped back. The coin was magnetic. It hummed. And Valcor collapsed. Not dead. Just off. A puppet whose strings had been cut with courtesy. Krolix watched the screen go black. His claws shook. He didn't kill him. No, the oracle murmured. He ended him. In the silence, Jordan faced the council. Your empire, he said, is not being overthrown. It's being remembered. He turned and walked away. No one stopped him. No one even stood. As the doors opened, the sounds of Earth filled the chamber, lullabies, rain, the whistle of wind through trees. He walked out as quietly as he'd come, and behind him, an empire collapsed under the weight of a story it tried to erase. On his way out, a small child reached for his hand. Human, but not entirely. Jordan paused, then offered the child the silver thermos. Here, he said gently. Hold on to this. It's warm. The boy clutched it. Are you going home? Jordan's gaze flicked upward. No, he said. I already brought it with me. He disappeared into the street. And above them, for the first time in Empire history, the flag did not fall. It was folded.